Revolution itaanza na member tribalism ikifanywa abortion. Revolution itaanza na sisi kutobaguana na rangi, na at last wanawake weusi watajivunia kujipaka kiwi kama Russian. Revolution itaanza na wananchi wakimeka big picture ya umaskini na corruption, alafu tapatiwa na siasa wapatie caption. Revolution itaanza na watchman wakiwa wamesimama na rungu nje ya milango za bank wakichunga bank account na wa realize haona hata Twitter account. Revolution itaanza na mabega wakitingizia matajiri mabega wakiambia keep your coins, we want real change. Revolution itaanza na machokora wakitu approach na business proposals za multi-billion dollars. Revolution itaanza na makanga wakigonga milango za ma3 na rhythm na sound ya drum yenye na demand na dream kuwa free. Revolution itaanza na fundi wa viatu wakilipea wa toned souls. Revolution itaanza na words za poets zikitoka na vidonda cause throat imejaa na toned souls. Revolution itaanza na sisi, mimi na wewe. Revolution itaanza na kuku kichinjwa shingo alafu mtoto wake atakuwa adopted na mwewe. Revolution itaanza na wananchi wakirealize that amani ni mume na Kenya ni mkewe. Revolution itaanza na music, chants na slogans kama a people united shall never be defeated. Revolution itaanza na the poor who get empowered, not empowered. Revolution itaanza tukirealize that people's power is mightier than the people in power. Revolution itaanza na middle class wakigraduate to masters. Revolution itaanza na our leaders wakianza kuspeak not to the mass but in the mass kama kasisi kwa misa. Revolution itaanza na sisi kukataa na siasa kuletea siasa kwa mazishi na kanisa. Revolution itaanza na heartbeat zetu zikibango na wachest kama fist ya gorilla yenye imeenda na gorilla war ku protect territory. Revolution itaanza na daughters wetu Turukana wakibleed na feathers under them cause always for sanitary pads na misitu zimekuwa the dormitories. Revolution itaanza na slave ship ikisela above oceans na overseas iende hadi kwa streets za Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia ku bring back our girls wenye wamekuwa slaves overseas. Revolution itaanza na marapa wakiwa na rhymes kama petrol bombs in the Sarafina. Revolution itaanza na mvua ya Noa ikinyesha na itaosha wewe watu wachafu na usafi tabaki kwa safina. Community ya wagema ikusifiwa, so tembo ikutiliwa maji, ona sasa muratina inatenganisha familia karatina. Revolution itaanza na music, chants na slogans kama a people united shall never be defeated. Revolution itaanza tukirealize that since independence bado mayouth wako independent. Since independence bado mayouth wanajiengage na wizi wa mabavu. Since independence bado wazazi wetu bado wanapigana mashamba zenye walinherit kwa zetu mababu. Since 1963 freedom bado ni cost, lazima uongane ndio upewe free. Revolution itaanza ile siku tutapata sight ya kutofautisha between words za kuincite na words za kuwin sight. Revolution itaanza na mapoet wakiingia hadi kwa headphones za mapunk na waambia it's about time wache kusikiza ngoma za kina Wizi Khalifa na waanze kusikiza poetry zetu zinabonga kuhusu wizi wa taifa. Revolution itaanza na mahasla, masafara, marasta, mababi. Revolution itaanza na mimi na wewe. Revolution itaanza na madansa wakitap dance songs of Lawino. Revolution itaanza na Kamau na Wino wakioana alafu mtoto wao ataitwa Wino. Revolution itaanza na sisi kutema mate kwa mchanga alafu tutachanganisha na udongo. Kisha tutasimama kwa macho vipofu na chongo, not only kufungua macho bali kufungua ubongo. Revolution itaanza na mimi na wewe. Revolution itaanza na music, chants na slogans kama a people united shall never be defeated. See, revolution itaanza na mimi na wewe. Si mheshimiwa usiniringie kitambi yako moja, stove yangu iko nazo 8 na hata korobo yangu iko na moja, but ni bring to the light. Nairobi mzima mabazi imejaa, I wonder kama Turukana kama iko ni kama Turukana kuna baa kama iko ni moja ndio baa la njaa. Na siringi ni vile mwalimu wangu wa high school niambia tear drops take notes, that's why stumiagi mashilingi. I make them hold their breath like asthma. Kwa nyumba sina 24-inch TV screen, but blood yangu kiscreen utapata nina plasma. See, makarao ni dead men walking, dead on the corpse. Society shapoteza hopes. Kenyufa nyiko kwa news ni chafu, amwezi to brainwash after news mweke soaps. Si inauma sana kusikia that chama fisadi ndio bado inavuma sana. Inauma sana kusikia that kukiwa na protest wanasiasa kiwa na biz ni kibanda mama mboga ndio tumika kuwasha moto ya protest. Inauma sana that tufukuza no folk, so si watumishi wa umma bana. Si The word donation consists of two words, do na nation. Do zilipeana but hazikujenga nation. Unaweza buy gazeti but hawezi buy Standard. Just because umesema take sides haimaanishi wewe ni buy Standard. Wenye wanakupatia sleepless nights ndio bado wanakupatia 1000 reasons za kubuy kitanda. Si tunaishi kwa country yenye full of injustices. The only thing waga fair ni ile na ulisulipa kwa matatu na sometimes hike. And hapo la day keep the doctors away but not from our streets. Madaktari wakiamua ku strike. Walichukua mabilioni wakaweka kwa mkono ya saluni. Niambie ni kama wakurusuka. Mkianza kuinvestigate the backbone of the story, mnapata hii story ni invertebrate, inaga hata backbone. Mkihaya lawyer, wananunua judge. Mungu Baba kuwa wa judge. Hiyo timeless tumespend hapa ni timeless. Nimejua hii life ni drama. Kiswahili na English ni grammar, but Sheng ndio lugha ya mama. Na kidhani mimi wazimu like father like son, then God must be crazy. Teardrops. Thank you.
All right. Mheshimiwa, usiniringie kitambi. Stove yangu iko na 8. Unatuingilia watu wa kitambi lakini ni sawa. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in the afternoon session. Yeah, lunch does this thing that, you forget where the venue was, but it's okay. We are here. We are the people. We still have our virtual audience. Welcome very much, people who are tuning in virtually. We even have members of panel who are going to tune in virtually. So I guess I'll call Debal. Debal will come and take us to the next session. So Debal, karibu.
Thank you. I express the hope that you've enjoyed your lunch and also you're eagerly looking forward to engaging with the panelists on this second session this afternoon, where we shall be focusing on the impact of disinformation and misinformation on electoral integrity. And also we'll be training our focus on citizens' trust in democratic institutions and regulatory options to address electoral integrity issues. And I know here we can throw in a lot of issues as far as also our case scenario here in the country has been, if we go back to 2000 and from there as well. So without much further ado, for them that are joining us this afternoon, my name is Dibala Nair. I'm a broadcast journalist, and I'm delighted also to take this particular session in the afternoon to engage with our panelists. If you're joining us virtually as well, feel welcome. Our panelists also who will be joining us momentarily virtually, I will be welcoming you as well. I just want to call upon our panelists who are already here. I can see their faces. I'll begin with Ms. Veronica Maina, Secretary General UDA Party. She was with us in the earlier session as well. We have also with us Annie Reri, Executive Director, FIDA Kenya, and the Chairperson, ILOG. If you're here, kindly also, you can join us in this particular panel. We have with us Andy Ritu, Registrar of Political Parties. Kindly, you can also join us as well. And joining us virtually, we have Honorable Dr. Shemo Chuodo, who's an IT expert, also the Chairperson of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. And I also want to acknowledge and welcome Corinne Momal Vanyan, who is the Executive Director, Kofi Annan Foundation. Corinne, if you're there, also feel welcome as well. And I'll want to also acknowledge and welcome Olaf Bonke, who is a Senior Advisor at the Alliance of Democracies. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for electing to be part of this panel and discussion this afternoon. And I will just go straight on and say, first of all, our apologies for running late. We are pinched for time, as you can see. But nonetheless, thank you for being amazingly patient and waiting for this forum this afternoon. So we'll try as much as possible to keep time so that at least we are not also caught up for them who are in person here, caught up in traffic as well. And also not to keep you long, also our delegates who are joining us virtually. Right, the hashtag, just a tender reminder, is hashtag Form Dialogue. Hashtag Form Dialogue. So also known on the social media platform, we are engaging also people on social media. So that will be the hashtag that you can actually use this very afternoon. Again, I want to thank you in person that you're here, Veronica, and also both of you are Anne. Ireri, so I need to be very categorical. Anne and then Derito. So I'll call one Derito and Anne one. So you better choose. Do we toss a coin or something? Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will want to hear the voice of Dr. Shem Ochodo, just to confirm that you're with us, so that also our delegates here in person can see your face and know you, just as a matter of introduction. Shem.
Excellent. Thanks. Delighted about.
Thank you, Shem. Also, I want to acknowledge you, Corinne, if you can get me clearly. Oh.
Yes, I can hear you very clearly. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. As a matter of interest, where are you joining us from?
Geneva.
Oh, you're in Geneva. Okay, now I've lost track of time. Is it at night or during the day? It must be.
Oh, no. We're 1 hour behind you.
1 hour behind us. Thank you for that as well. But just to set the tone for this particular conversation, I want to begin with Dr. Shem Ochodo to set the tone for the conversation this afternoon, because this is really right up your alley as far as IT is concerned. And critically, we know that in this country, we're trying to shake into place technology and our election system as well. And that has been a bone of contention from, we know, 2017. It has been a bone of contention for the fact that, the servers were accused, so to speak. People were raising accusatory fingers to the system that was then, that they thought was faulty, and we did not really know clearly, as they say, who won the election, because the servers up to date, they have not been opened. But I know for sure you're one person who has been advocating that IT, information technology, should be classified as a critical infrastructure. Let's just begin from there, Shem.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
I thank you, Deba. Although I think it's Corinne's call to set the tone, but nonetheless, talking for the forgotten Kenyans, the diaspora, the only ones who have to struggle to register to vote and to be on the ballot as candidates, I am hoping that this and next year are going to be different. But having said that, allow me also to take cognizance that this is happening at a time when Africa is celebrating 25 years of internet that came through Kenya for sub-Saharan Africa. We are delighted, but we are also saddened that 60% of Africa and Africans still don't have quality connection. So that's the challenge that we still have. So even though we'll be talking about disinformation and fake news and so on and so forth, remember there is a whole lot of voters, potential and real, that don't have access to technologies. But talking for Kenya, just before I hand over to Corinne, because she is the real guru in this space.
Yes.
I'm more on the technology side rather than content or use side. But we are well alive to what happened with the Cambridge Analytica a while back, what happened in the 2016 US elections, and what happened with Brexit. So obviously what we are talking about here is real issues of concern. And I do know issues of propaganda and all, and the use of technology. Technology can be used to manage it, but can also be used to abuse it. I look forward to hearing more from Corinne. I'll be happy to share more thoughts when my time comes. But thanks for donating that opportunity, Deba.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you.
Moderator, thanks.
Thank you, Shem Ochodo. Now we want to drill deeper with our panelists on this, just also to hear from them. First of all, I'll just give introductory remarks. Thank you, Anne and Derito, for joining us as well. Thank you, Annie Reri and Dr. Douglas Kivoi. Thank you for joining us. We've been also with Veronica. So I'll just give each of you a minute just to have introductory remarks. Let's just begin with Anne. Anne Ireri. I need to be very categorical.
Thank you very much. We have this tendency, my sister and I, to share panels. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so thank you very much. On behalf of ELOG, that's the Election Observation Group of Kenya, the largest domestic civil society observation group. And we have been in existence for 10 years. And I think for us, Dibal, as you have mentioned, I think my starting point is that as we discuss this as Kenyans, we then must approach elections from the cyclic perspective. That elections will not be the 9th of August 2022. There's a whole cycle before, during, and after. And so if technology, as we have stated, is a large enabler, how do we infuse technology and social media, for instance, throughout the process? So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Rito.
Thank you. I also want to appreciate to be in this panel this afternoon to discuss a very patent issue in elections, and especially a few months. We may call it a few months to election. The question of technology in election is something that cannot be gainsaid. Given from the past and what we have gone through as a country, and the question of questions on technology that has been raised. But as mentioned earlier, technology is an enabler, and we must check it from a perspective of wanting to make it work for us, for the benefit of us as a country, but also being very cautious on the abuse.
Yes.
That can result as a result of a very good thing, technology, and how that then can be controlled so that it works for us instead of against us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, let's hear from Dr. Kivoi.
Thank you very much, Dibal, and I want to thank all my fellow panelists and the participants who are appearing virtual. We are talking here about electoral integrity. And what I want to say is that election is not a one-day event. It's a process. Integrity. We cannot say that you are a man or a woman of integrity by one act you've done. We need to ask ourselves, where is this man or woman coming from? What has influenced or shaped his behaviors or characters? Where are we coming from as a country? What has informed or influenced us in the way we act or believe? Because they say change is always there. So we are not going to run away from technology. But as the Registrar of Political Parties has said, how are we going to make sure that technology works for us for the betterment of our country as opposed to it being abused or misused by a whole cabal and cartel of individuals out there who make money and thrive under this misinformation of communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kivoi. Thank you. Thank you very much. Veronica, for the sake of them that are joining us this afternoon, even virtually.
Yes, my name is Veronica Maina. I'm Secretary General UDA. I'm delighted to be here once again to share the panel with my sisters and our brother here. And there are many issues that we could look at when we look at the electoral systems in Kenya. But maybe more fundamentally to note is that peace is a function of development, and peace is you would call it a factor of certain elements being put in place so that people are able to perceive that they are safe, they are secure. And when we look at the electoral processes, it has a determination on whether people perceive they are at peace, or they are in conflict, or they are not happy about certain processes that may happen. I would also want to note that our electoral process is both manual and it's also technology-based. So we have a hybrid system where it's not full technology end-to-end. We have real voters walking into stations, We have the KIMS kit being used for the voting system. So ideally, when we look at our electoral system, for us to now end up with a product called peace, certain factors must be put in place very securely and with a lot of integrity in the system that puts them in place, so that people know there are no compromises and that integrity will be regarded within the settings and the setups that will be put to give us the product of an election that people perceive is right and is just and fair to the people who are voting.
Thank you, thank you. Right, so let's just get granular with the topic of the day, and it's unfortunate that we don't also have someone from the IBC to be part of a panel as well, because I think that's very key when you're talking about electoral integrity. And I will want you not just to navel gaze yourself on your particular corner. If it's UDA, it's UDA. I want you to just be broad-minded as well. We speak as Kenyans and as intellectual also. Intellectuals on this particular forum this afternoon. I wanted just to begin for the point I felt frustrated as a Kenyan myself that we always remain none the wiser when it comes to issues of electoral integrity. Right now as we speak, we have the Public Procurement Authority Board that has stopped the procurement process of IBC because of issues of not really following the due diligence of the procurement process. And I asked myself, we're talking about election integrity. At this particular time, cutting it very close towards a general election, is this the way to begin? From the IBC, why should the Public Procurement Authority Board come now and stop the process and say this process is not following the due diligence of the procurement rules? Let's just begin from you, Ireri.
Thank you very much, Dibal. And as you've said, a very fundamental topic. One of the things, even before I delve into the topic or the question you've asked, there's some statistics I just want to share.
Sure.
And I think it's important to put issues into context. So these are drawn from the Digital 2021 Kenya report, where we do know the Kenyan population is slightly above 54 million. We do have internet penetration at 40% in this country. In terms of social media users, we have at least 11 million users. And if you look at even the cell phone coverage, coupled with the reality that most Kenyans either have one or two mobile connectivity devices, we are actually at 108% of telephone or mobile connection within the country. We have 21.75 million internet users as of January 2021. Why do I throw these statistics? Because it is important. What has happened in the country, and especially Dibal when it comes to elections, again, we have left it to be a preserve of either the IBC, the political parties, the Registrar of the political parties, and as citizens, we've taken a back seat until the election day. There are processes that start way before, and that's why I talked about the cyclic nature. If you ask on average Kenyans, when was the last time you checked your details in terms of being a registered voter? Are you a registered voter? This information is public in terms of engaging even with the process of IBC, what needs to happen. The IBC has actually shared their election roadmap. These are things that we don't follow often. And so even when it comes to issues such as technology, which are fundamental, and as you've mentioned, the procurement, unfortunately, what happens is most Kenyans tend to now read either from the media in terms of the outcome, even before the process started. And so for us to get to this point, why I raise it is that the procurement of the KIMS kit is just one aspect. As ILOG, we have been very consistent post-2017 on the issues that we qualify as being minimal reforms that are essential to have a peaceful process that has integrity and is credible. Because remember, the elections need to pass the fair, free, and credible test. And this go beyond the IBC. I think it's only recently that we've seen His Excellency, the head of state, gazetting IBC commissioners. So you can imagine the kind of mad rush they're having as an institution to actually gel. To date, we don't have a substantive CEO of the IBC, for example. When you look at issues such as campaign financing that are a topic altogether, I think we have seen what has happened with the gazettement of the limits and how the National Assembly and Parliament as a whole has interacted with it. So why I raise this is that, yes, you have mentioned a fundamental part, which is the technology, but the buck still comes back to the Kenyans. We need to get out of our comfort zones. Why I mention statistics, it means if we have this level of coverage in the country, it's not 100%, but a lot of people, especially now with the COVID pandemic, have increased their access, their usability of technology. We also need to go beyond waiting for the election date of 9th of August to question some of these processes. That the procurement was cast in doubt is important, but then for us as ELOG, if it needs to pass the test of credibility and fairness, that we have to start the process again within the limits of time, I think it's important. It's better than having a process that is fast-tracked, that does not meet the credibility test, only for these issues to show up at the ballot. But remember, as we have said, technology is just one aspect. As the SG mentioned, there is a manual element. And so what we need to look at is, in terms of facilitating as a country, network coverage, if you're looking at whether it's 2G, 3G, what's the minimum? And furthermore, when it comes to the basics, where even the courts have pronounced Form 34A being the basic polling station output, how well are we equipped manually to even vote as a country? Remember, technology in most instances is also to facilitate and as a backup. So we must go to the default settings and make sure everything within the process is credible. Thank you.
Thank you. As also Ereri was mentioning, you know, technology is just but one of the meshes in the gear. We have so many meshes that are at least the gear will actually be running on as well when it comes to electoral integrity. And this is where I want to rope you in, and Deritu, as now the Registrar of Political Parties, as it were, because we know when we're talking about electoral integrity as well, it emanates from the party. And there is good doubt that you're sitting next to Veronica here, because we were battling with the question and we're saying, oh, but we are frustrated a bit that Anne, she's not here. She should have been in part of this particular panel, as it were. And this has been the question that is hanging on the rafters of many Kenyans' minds. And they're asking, we know what is happening within UDA as far as, straddling on UDA and Jubilee is concerned. Section 22 of the Political Parties Act is very clear and limpid. Could you clarify for us, why aren't you, as the Registrar of Political Parties, not addressing this issue? And everyone is concerned. Okay. So I have taken this advantage also to know, because when we're talking about election integrity, I think we have to also have integrity beginning from the parties themselves. We have to streamline ourselves with the law. Okay. Don't you think so?
Thank you. I think that's an important question. That's why I asked which question and which issue, because I wanted to understand. The question of belonging to a political party is the political right of a Kenyan, captured very well under Article 38 of the Constitution, and it's an individual choice of which party you would want to belong to. Then when those rights are articulated, as you mentioned, in the Political Parties Act, as far as membership itself is concerned, that there's only several ways in which somebody ceases to be a member of a political party. One of it is you can decide to resign from a political party. You can, of course, leave voluntarily and say, I don't want to continue belonging to a particular political party. You may decide to join another political party, so you leave one and add another. You can exit because of natural causes, like you have died. But then you can also leave a political party because you have been deemed to have resigned by the political party you belong to. So the question of deeming, and I think it's the discussion here.
Yes, the question of deeming is what we ask.
Yeah, the question of deeming is what you want me to respond to.
Please.
The person who is supposed to deem is the party that you belong to. It is not the Registrar of Political Party, because you are resigning from the political party. It's important to clarify that registrar is a custodian of the political parties register, not the owner of the members in that particular register.
But in
So
enacting that particular law itself, then who should we run to?
it is the political party, and once you advise the political party that once the political party notices its member that my member is not behaving according to the ideology of the particular political party, is the political party to take that decision. Otherwise, what you're inviting the registrar to do is to police political parties, which will not, that is not envisaged neither in the Constitution, also in the Political Parties Act. A political party is expected to be an institution that has party organs. That's why you go to the Schedule 2 of the Political Parties Act. You are going to find what should be provided in a political party constitution. One of it is the mechanism in which a party should actually deal with its own members and then inform registrar what they have done with those particular members. So I do not think, and I know it is true in law, the standard in law is that registrar has no business dealing with the individual members of a political party. We deal with officials of a political party because they are the one who are custodian of the membership of the political parties that are registered.
So if you deal with officials, primarily whom are we talking about?
They are party organs. For example, Veronica will tell you her party has different organs that deal with different issues. For example, there's a internal dispute resolution committee. In terms, if there's a dispute, there's a committee that deals with that within a political party. It is captured in the schedule that such a committee should be there. There's a party that deals with discipline. Another one will deal with making decisions that regards to management of the political parties, among other issues. So the question of deeming, if the political party is not uncomfortable with its member behaving in a particular way, I don't think you have a right, even you as a Kenyan, to tell the political, if you don't belong to that political party especially, you cannot tell the political party, deal with this member, and you are not even a member. The members of that political party, because membership of a political party is well governed in Section 14 of the Political Parties Act. Once the party decides that we are uncomfortable with this issue, it's for the party organs then to act and do what they're supposed to do with their members. Yes.
Right, thank you. Veronica, you wanted to respond briefly?
Yes. To also say that you must also look at that question in the wider context of the politics we are in right now. Political parties are speaking to other political parties. You have seen the meetings of somebody like Honorable Martha Karua, Honorable Moses Kuria. They don't belong to the same political grouping, but they are discussing and doing these dialogues to see how they can work together, if at all, in 2022. So if you see a certain member of a certain political party right now reaching out to another member of another political party right now, you must look at that question within the wider context of what is happening in that political space. The problem comes in when you now focus that question specifically on one individual, and this is what I've been trying to move the question from, so that we stop focusing on one individual and we are able to develop an environment that has principles that govern A equally with B, equally with C, so that if you ask the registrar to answer that question, then she also tackles the question of how ODM is interfacing with Jubilee, how OCA is interfacing with its membership. Then you'll be looking at the whole political environment, because the minute you remove one single actor within that environment and you appear to be judging them specifically and you're not putting the other actors in that same environment, then there lies the issue. There lies a source problem which needs to be sorted.
But
can't we
use that as a case study, even to broach the subject?
We need to tweak the environment. I'm looking at it this way. We need to tweak the environment in such a manner that it runs fair, it runs equal in terms of perception, so that even the voter, even the Kenyan can follow suit, can walk in the same path, that they know if we are holding A and C on account on this issue, we are equally holding a big brother called Jubilee Party on account on certain issues, so that you don't pick on one and then leave the other one. Then the registrar will be able, because the minute registrar picks us, handpicks one party, Then the next question is from 20 political parties that why have you handpicked this, cherry-picked the issues?
Which is good, because now she comes and she clarifies for everyone what her role is, so that we don't now keep speculating about the role of the Register of Political Parties in light of that particular issue, which I think many people have been asking. And it's good now to clarify that. So even if we'll use that as an entry point, which can be a case study, it's okay at the end of the day. But I understand also the frustration that you're expressing as well, Veronica. But I want to acknowledge as well Olfal Bonke, who is joining us online as well, Senior Advisor at the Alliance of Democracies. He's the Matters of Political Parties Fund. And you know what, recently, or you disseminated, or was it coming from the Exchequer, that amount that went to ODM, it brought out a lot of noise within the distribution of the money as well. But I wanted just to get clarity from you, because I think it has been a point of frustration for the parties. They think this particular act on the political parties fund sharing is a bit discriminatory. Is there an opportunity that we can amend? And I know this is not within your remit, but from your own assessment, do you think, first of all, it is discriminatory and we need to amend that particular act so that at least everyone can really come on board? And I don't know if Veronica will share the same sentiment as well, but you take the lead.
Thank you. I think the political parties fund issue is usually a thorny one.
Yes.
Every time it's come on board. But from where we sit, we must also reflect why the fund was created. It was to strengthen democracy and also strengthen political parties. To the extent of the law, the current law resulting to the funding then going to only 2 political parties who qualified according to the criteria set out. From where I sit, I agree, and I've always said that I agree probably more parties should benefit from the political parties fund. That calls then for the review of the law. But there must be a criteria, because you cannot open that any party that is registered at any one particular time then benefit from the fund, then it beats the purpose. There should be a review of the criteria, but the criteria should only expand to the extent that it can support more political parties who are, they have significant impact in the democratic space, so that we don't have then an abuse of the same, where every person who registers a political party then expect that immediately after registration, then I'm supposed and I'm entitled to political parties fund. But to the extent that the law may need to recheck on the threshold, I think to that extent, I agree, so that we increase the democratic space and the strengthening of more political parties as far as the space is concerned. Mm-hmm. The fund itself, I think, significantly has contributed to the political parties who are benefiting, expanding and be able to do their function. So that fact that it is an important fund then cannot be understated. The only one other issue probably that is important to note, Debal, mm-hmm. is that to date, the fund has never received the 0.3% since inception. And the Act is very clear that it should be 0.3 of the last audited account. Even the parties that are benefiting mm-hmm. are really receiving significantly little money compared to what the political parties fund was expected when it was captured in the Political Parties Act. So as we think also as of reviewing the criteria, we may also think as a country, fund allowing that we realize the 0.3%, so that the strengthening of democracy and more parties benefiting then become a reality, because it will beat logic when you then spread to even a few more other parties, then the fund, the money is still the same. Mm-hmm. Then it will go little here and there. Finally, the impact will be very limited, and then it will beat the purpose why the fund was established. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My name is Tabu, or W. Daniels. I serve NAC Kenya as the Executive Director. I am happy to listen to this conversation. However, I feel I am not getting what was intended in terms of technology and elections. We have veered off, but because of that veering off, let me take it on my brother from Kipra. The issue of discipline and funding, I think it is okay for us to have hygiene in our politics. And the hygiene begins from the political party. It's also not very fair for Daktari to say deny political parties money because of the indiscipline. Rather, let us give political parties money and then hold the political parties to account for what they have received and for the discipline that is expected of them. Because the initial intention of funding political parties was to make them institutions. You are demanding of political parties of certain aspects, but you are denying them the infrastructure. So are you being fair or are you being selfish? Thank you.
So we'll just have probably Alliance and Nakuru getting ready. On the Zoom section, we do have comments. Gladys Alima says or asks, do political parties have a forum to unite and advocate for the majority of people in society to get subsidized gadgets to enable them access internet? Someone else also says the marginalization of women who want to vie for political posts at a grassroots level is real. We also have someone mentioning, can the panelists discuss how to counteract propaganda at grassroots level? And Prosper Jonga says, governments should implement a moratorium on the sale and transfer of surveillance technology until compliance with human rights standards can be guaranteed. So those are just some of the comments that are on the Zoom platform. So if you allow me, maybe we can allow them to answer before, as we get the counties ready.
Okay, so they're not ready, as it were?
Alliance is ready, but
Alliance is ready, yeah.
So we can go to Alliance.
Okay, yeah, so from those particular questions, countering propaganda at the county or ward level at that matter as well, can the political parties also create forum in terms of to trying to stimulate and integrate the internet technology? I think that was also one of the comments as well. You can pick up any of them, then you can answer. Any of you. So I don't want to share a peek.
To the issue that the CEO of NAC Kenya has raised. I'm a Kenyan, we are all Kenyans, we are taxpayers. If political parties are going to spend our money, then we must see value for that money. Let us not just give political parties money because we have a law that says so. We need to ask ourselves, are we getting value for this money we are giving to political parties? Thank you.
All right. Annie Reri.
Thank you. I think I'll restrict my answer to the propaganda. I think if you look at how it emanates, it's near impossible to say we can completely eradicate it. But I think what is important, I go back to where we can work, for instance, with political parties and stakeholders within the electoral system to agree on what we call our norms. I mean, yes, it is a political competition, but every competition has rules. So I think if we start having that kind of discourse as a country, agreeing to what is acceptable within campaigning and what is not acceptable, and notably we'll see that a lot of the propaganda is targeted against either marginalized groups, minority groups, or groups such as women, where we know we cannot answer back, we cannot fight back. So I think, for example, where we now work with the political parties to have non-violent pledges against youth and women, against fake news, against propaganda, and also candidates who have been cleared by the respective political parties to also sign on to that. Slowly we will start sanitizing the issue.
Where do you draw the line between propaganda and hate speech?
I think it's very clear. I think, one, hate speech has been defined in the law. We know what it does. We know what it is intended at.
But there's no ironclad definition on hate speech, as it were. We still struggle to define what hate speech is.
I think that just shows lack of commitment. I think at the end of the day, if I say something as and it leads to incitement, for me that is hate speech. If I end up indicating that I was talking about my brother in a particular way, but that either leads to misinformation or him being penalized by his supporters or voters, that ends up being either hate speech or propaganda. So I think the challenge, and that's where in Kenya we've seen a lot of mischief, especially in defining, is one, the reality that a lot of the hate speech is intentionally propagated either in vernacular, so that then I prove and say, perhaps in English or Swahili, this is what it means. In my vernacular, it doesn't. And so for us, it doesn't mean the same thing. So we need to really define this and work with institutions, even such as the NCIC. I think hate speech is hate speech no matter what language you pronounce it at. And even in court, if you look at the judicial system, there are provisions for even interpretation. So if I say state something and clearly it was aimed at being hate speech, if it's subjected to a process and we can interpret and see what it was intended to do, then that qualifies. I think the challenge from where I sit as a Kenyan is we've not seen enough of these inciters being brought to book. Then any would-be perpetrator takes comfort in the reality that others have done it and gotten away with it.
Right. Anne, you want to respond to any of the question or maybe add an addition?
Maybe I would only want to add on, allow me just to redwell on the issue of political parties fund.
Yes.
Just for clarity, political parties fund is audited because it's public fund, and the Auditor General has a right, and he actually does audit political parties fund. And the question of 15% of that fund is specifically given to promote the agenda of inclusion, women, youth, persons with disability. And it's part of what the Auditor General has to check when the auditing is happening. Probably the impact is what my brother from Kibra and others could be alluding to, because when the money is too little, then the impact may not be felt. And then the mobilization is only around the political parties members, because you are strengthening that particular political party. So the impact may be felt within that particular political party. Then the question of propaganda. I think going to elections, we probably need to check, especially propaganda that is geared towards exclusion, especially of women, of youth, and persons with disability, and the marginalized. Sometimes it is deliberately created to exclude, and probably that is an area if any person working in the governance and elections should be looking out into in terms of implementation of the law to ensure that inclusion does not happen. Because when we talk about integrity of election, we cannot say that there is integrity in election when it has excluded sections of the society that it's supposed to, the leaders who are elected are supposed to serve. So the propaganda, especially that is geared to exclude, then should actually be taken very seriously so that everybody feel comfortable participating. A woman coming into the electoral scene should be allowed to campaign as freely without necessarily being castigated just because he happened to be a woman, and certain issues are highlighted and then false messages are created around it. So I am very, very concerned, especially messages that are geared towards exclusion in the electoral process.
Right. Veronica.
To that, I have noted that the Office of the DPP has prosecuted a hate speech in some instances, meaning there is possibility that hate speech can be prosecuted. That's one. Number two, we need to rethink the role of, for instance, bloggers, because you'll find some of the propaganda is systematically carried out by bloggers, so that we look at what environment are they operating in, are there regulations in that area, what is the no-go zone, and also there was an attempt at some point to make the administrators of WhatsApp groups responsible and accountable for the content that is being generated from their pages. So that even a group, if I'm in a group and it's supposed to be operating within certain rules, it behoves on me as a member to shout out if it's going off what I'm expecting it to to do so that even the members themselves are responsible. And then I know for a fact that if you report a Facebook page account to Facebook, they have generated certain falsified information or derogatory or some content which is not acceptable. There's a possibility they will be nipped at the bud. And Twitter has been subject of heavy conversations, even taking down the former president of US from using the Twitter account. So I think there are ways we could try and regulate ourselves using what is available right now, insofar as the propaganda is concerned. But finally, propaganda is also politics. You know that. It's the politics of the day. So I tell the candidates when they say there is too much heavy propaganda around me is that somehow you also have to up your game, especially my women colleagues who are looking for positions. They are overwhelmed and swamped and, just thrown away by this propaganda. They almost can't find their footing because of the kind of things that are being said. Maybe we need also as a society to support women more, reject the propaganda, especially when you know it's false, because you know whether those things that are being said about the personality are wrong. Other people could call them out, particularly the men. Let the men be the ambassadors when it comes to those issues and put the limits and say, this is the far you go, this is not true, we won't have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, I think we are game now. We can continue with the online questions as well. If you're ready, as some guided, we begin with Nakuru, or which county are we beginning with?
We'll begin with Alliance, the Alliance. I think they are ready. They should be on the screen.
I have a question for Dr. Shemo Chodo. What is your opinion on IEBC? What is your opinion on IEBC's conduct of the two previous elections? And is the electoral body prepared to hold free and fair elections next year? My next question is for Anne Ireri. What influence on policy making do campaign financiers wield when a government comes into power? And what effect do you think it has on our democracy? There was also this burning question from one of my compatriots.
Thank you.
Good evening. I have another question. My name is Brian Sanale. I'm from Alliance High School. In light with the 2022 political scene, our deputy president is dividing the nation between hustlers and dynasty. I personally feel that this is playing to the emotion of economically disempowered Kenyans. Quite frankly, I must say. This is making us constantly aware of the differences between social classes, making me know that there is always a person above me. My question goes to the Secretary General of UDA, Madam Veronica. How is this helping us achieve a stable political environment in the face of upcoming elections by dividing the masses in the name of hustlers and diners? Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Alliance, or those two will do for now. So do we elect to get another county? Yes.
Yes, I
Please.
think we'll go to Nakuru next. I know they are on standby. Please, let's keep it as brief as Alliance has kept it. Nakuru?
I think the question of political funding, the campaign financing,
yes,
is try to sanitize the process so that there's an equal level playing field where we say you can only spend so much. You cannot extend this. But that does not mean you cannot come and without nothing, then we elect you.
You're not locked out.
Yeah, you're not locked out.
I think that's the perception that people now
you are not
getting.
locked out
Yes, you're
by
not
the
locked
fact that you don't have the 5 million to run for MCA. Even if you don't, and you have policies and you are able to sell them, then you are allowed to do that. The question is still what my namesake Anne is saying, the citizenry. Are we as citizens of Kenya patriotic enough just to deal with ideology and because I am a good candidate, I am telling you what I can do, I have good qualities of a leader, and then you give me your vote? I think that is the big question, and it calls for patriotism on the part of all of us as Kenyans.
Thank you, thank you. Let's hear from Veronica. I think there was a question on hustle and the dynasty narrative. Is it also, cutting that rift, into the masses?
What our political philosophy in UDA, because that question was specific to UDA and to the Deputy President's engagement with the public, the philosophy we have brought about is informed and inspired by the fact that we have studied the economic, socio-political environment, noted the gaps, picked the gaps, and started to provide solutions for Kenya. For instance, we have a lot of youth unemployment, youths losing hope. In fact, what I've been expecting Kenyans to do is to one day get into social media and really thank UDA for thinking, having a mind brewery, thinking through how we can resolve that question of youth unemployment by empowering the people at the lowest ladder, at the bottom of the ladder. So this political philosophy of bottom-up then bridges that question of whether if you don't have money, you can actually come and vie as an MCA or as an MP and be assured of clinching that position courtesy of your political leadership attributes. If you look at Kiambaa politics, our candidate is one example we are using through to encourage the youth that they can come to UDA and ask to be aspirants in certain positions of MCA. Our candidate in Kiambaa is not well endowed in terms of finances, was not rich, was a very humble man, a son of a single mother, somebody who did not quite have a very steady income, but he dared to apply to be an aspirant in Kiambaa, and UDA walked the journey with this gentleman. So what I'm saying is that we are bridging that gap by giving youths hope that in the coming season, if they would put UDA government into power, the conversation has changed. Before, it was more of leadership deciding, making decisions on programs and policies of what the Kenyans should have. Now the conversation is starting more on the lower side. It's the farmer who is saying, the reason why I cannot have good produce is because of, say, fertilizer, input, capital, and then we sort out those issues at that level. Just the way when you want to build infrastructure, you go and look and say, what is the problem with this area? Is it accessibility? Then you go to infrastructure. So it's just reversing the conversation so that you are meeting the needs down first. You empower the people. When they are strong enough, they can pay the taxes that will eventually create a more stable economic environment. Yes.
Thank you,
Veronica.
Veronica.
Thank the organizers of the forum, and reiterate the importance of soul searching of all Kenyans as far as the truth against propaganda. Because especially a loud election, the propaganda, before somebody hits the set button, you should think through what that message will do to an individual. A message just by a tweet or a Facebook post can cost a life just because you have given the wrong information. So I think the question of soul searching as we look towards the next general election so that we communicate the truth and we also are careful, even if it's politics as it was, as Veronica mentioned earlier, then you know to which limit then that politics can go so that you don't harm life. Because we all need a peaceful country, we need a peaceful election. My second thought is on the question of trust, the question of strengthening the institutions, and also knowing that these people who are working in IBC, in Registrar political parties, are actually Kenyans. And they all mean well for this country because they are here. So that we support institutions rather than castigate them, trying to bring them down to the extent that the people working here feel very discouraged that they cannot. And those duties must be done, and done by Kenyans. So I think my call is to request Kenyans to support institutions, including political parties. We are in the formation stages of democracy. Indeed, we are only about 30 years old since the Section 2A was repealed that is about 1992. We actually less than 30 years. And we are comparing ourselves when we talk about political hygiene and discipline and democracy to big guys who have been there in 300 years in the democratic space and done it, been there, done what we are doing today, but matured. So we also have to give ourselves time to mature and to grow into becoming a mature democracy, to have patience with each other, but also having the courage to challenge what is wrong and accepting that challenges, especially for even people who are holding public offices. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Right. Finally, Veronica.
Many thanks once again to CMD for the opportunity to enjoy this very rich discourse during the International Day of Democracy. We have appreciated it as political parties. To the diaspora, right now they make up about 3 million voters, and if census is taken today, maybe they are way beyond 4.5 million voters who could vote. Currently, there are 2017, there are 5 nations that voted, including South Africa, Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, Malawi. And we would hope that the IEBC would expand that bracket so that we have more inclusion of the diaspora, especially based on the fact that diaspora is injecting over 300 billion Kenyan shillings into our economy. They are big players in this economy, and it's important for them to exercise their basic right to vote. Regarding our electoral system, it's a hybrid system. It's both technology-based and manual-based. Agents are so important in assuring the integrity of the process. So let the political parties continue preparing themselves, ensuring they have agents who can attest to the, to the validity of any vote process that has taken place. Normally, the technology is used to transmit the result, but the counting happens at the polling center. And that means everybody who is at the polling center can actually give you a proper transmission of the result that has been tallied at that specific polling center. That's a huge development in the electoral process in Kenya because there is no carrying of boxes.
Thank you.
And then finally, just want to thank even Dibar. We meet him on air on the other side.
Yes.
Thank you for carrying through the processes.
Thank you.
It's been a very rich day.
And it has
Asante
been a
sana.
treat.
And the band,
And
Asante sana. We have enjoyed the music.
Thank you
very
very much.
It was truly Kenyan and very rich. Thank
Right.
you.
I wanted, Daktari, did you give your headline thoughts as well? I think I started with you.
Mine is very brief. The issue of misinformation, disinformation, those bloggers and the individuals who post those messages online, if you follow them closely, they have affiliations to political parties. So it is important that political parties are able to control the kind of information they disseminate to Kenyans. Those bloggers are on payroll. They are given 528 shillings per week. Some of them, we know them, I know them. 1,000 shillings per week to post those messages. So political parties will not run away from the responsibility of ensuring that what they disseminate to Kenyans is the correct information. Thank you.
Are you by any chance planning to run for any electoral office? No elective post that you're running for. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure about that. I am not planning to run for any political seat.
Fantastic. I want to thank you warmly for being part of this conversation. It's been such a treat to have you. I want to thank you, Annie Reri, Executive Director, FIDE Kenya, Chairperson, ILOG as well, and the Registrar of Political Parties, Honorable Dr. Shemo Chodho, IT expert and Chairperson, Kenya Diaspora Alliance, also Dr. Douglas Kivoi, Principal Analyst, KIPRA, Veronica Maina, Secretary General, UDA Party, Olaf Bonke, Senior Advisor at the Alliance of Democracies in absentia also. Thank you so much. And also Corinne Momal Vanian, Executive Director, Kofi Annan Foundation, for being part also of this particular session this afternoon. Thank you so much also for you engaging online and those questions that you peppered our panelists with, and then were ably answered by them as well. Thank you. And I want to thank you also for being amazingly patient. You in person here since morning. I think it's going to actually 6 o'clock right now. So I want to commend you for being, again, amazingly patient until now. Thank you very much. The session continues tomorrow. And now I have no other choice but just to hand over to Papi, our AMC.
small puppy will take over. I think the one person we haven't thanked is our amazing moderator. Please, let's give him a hearty hand clap. At least I know you've been paying attention. That truly was felt all the way from here. Thank you once again, everybody.